What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Anybody who's anybody, and anybody who knows anything about cars, will be able to tell you stories about the Mark IV Toyota Supra. They'll tell you things about its 2JZ GTE 3-litre straight-six engine. They'll tell you how it can take absolute punishment, make 800 horsepower on stock standard internals, make over 1,000 horsepower with the right few mods. What they won't tell you is the long journey that it took to get to where it was. Started out with the Toyota Celica, a compact sports car for Toyota, the everyman sports car, one that was affordable. And as soon as the Celica started gaining a little bit of weight, Toyota separated the two brands. You no longer had the Celica Supra, you just had the Celica with its front-wheel drive powertrain, and then you had the Supra. Now, the Mark III Supra had great success in motor racing. We're talking touring cars, we're talking drag racing, we're talking even a little bit of rally. But it was the Mark IV that really set the hearts ablaze. It was more curvaceous, it was sporty, it was, frankly, Japan's answer to the Ferrari. It was a sad time, though, when it was discontinued in 2002. The internet and the car scene was rife with speculation and rumor about a fifth-generation Mark V Toyota Supra. Every now and then, something would pop up, but then again it would disappear into obscurity. And it did this for nearly 16 years, with the fans getting really excited when they heard that a patent was filed for the Supra nameplate. Not once, but twice. So what we have now is the opportunity to see what has been going on for the last 16 years of development as Toyota releases the Mark V Supra. And this is it, the new Mark V Toyota Supra. I'm having to pay quite a bit of attention to the road here because it is quite a raughty little vehicle. And I say little because it's not as sizable as the A80 felt, the Mark IV Toyota Supra. Now, of course, the Mark V Supra, for those that don't know, is a joint venture with BMW and the Z4. But that's not to say that it is a Z4. I can best liken it to, well, two kids that were given the same Lego set, the same components, but neither of them got the instructions or a picture on the box. So what they've been left with is, well, they've been allowed to develop their own type of vehicle, and this was said by BMW right from the get-go, was that Toyota needs to build the car that they need to build, not the car that they think BMW is building. The two departments worked completely separate from each other, and BMW developed their own thing without sharing much information with Toyota, and vice versa. So Toyota can't tell you what BMW is doing, and BMW can't tell you what Toyota is doing. And that's a great way of going about things. So it is based on the CLA-R modular platform. So proportions are very similar to the Z4. We can't see that they're going to be that much different in terms of wheelbase, track, and overall height. The reason for Toyota going with the joint venture with BMW was largely due to the fact that BMW is one of the only manufacturers that still produces an inline six-cylinder. And that was one of Tada-san's prerequisites. It had to be a six-cylinder, it had to be a straight six, it had to be turbocharged, had to be in front, and it had to power the rear wheels. All the makings of, well, the original Toyota Supra. Both the 2, the 3, and the 4, they were all known for their six-cylinder engines. And so it uses BMW hardware, yes. But what it's not using is BMW's coding and programming. That has been left to Toyota, and that means that the vehicle still feels, well, quite un-BMW-like. But does it feel Toyota-like? That is the burning question. I've just done this pass in a GT86, so that's a flat 4-cylinder. This vehicle that we're driving here, this new A80 Mark V Toyota Supra, well, it has a shorter wheelbase than the 86. It is a little bit wider and it stands a little bit taller. But the chassis in this is even stiffer than the Lexus LFA, and that's saying something. Now these twisty roads are giving us a bit of an idea of what the chassis is like and how it's performing, and I tell you what, you can feel that low center of gravity. It really does feel great. The Mark V Supra is powered by a B58B30 engine, 3-litre straight 6 turbocharged. It is a BMW derived unit, and they're saying it's making anywhere in the region of 320 to 350 horsepower. We're looking at around the 250 kilowatt mark, and that's more than ample poke. What we're interested in is the power delivery and how it's delivering it, and it seems very, very responsive here in sport mode through these twisty canyon passes. It's mated to an 8-speed ZF gearbox, and there's no talk of a manual gearbox in the immediate future. They haven't ruled it out entirely, but if you understand the way that Toyota works, the chances are very slim that we'll see a manual derivative, even in the 2-litre 4-cylinder version of the Supra that we can expect in the near future. The gearbox programming is surprisingly good. I am really enjoying this gearbox programming. I'm leaving it just in the drive mode as I'm going up and down here, just seeing how it predicts. And it's learning the driving styles, and it seems to be reading a lot of the steering input as to what gear it's selecting. I haven't managed to catch it out just yet. You can feel the stiff chassis, you can feel the turn-in is actually very, very good. The last 4 or 5% of the development of the chassis came down to the tires, so it is wearing spec tires. There's only so much that you can do with suspension, and if you've got the wrong tires, well, you're not going to be able to extract all the potential of your engineering there. The change in direction is actually very, very predictable, and the weight transfer just loads up the suspension beautifully. And of course, suspension dynamics and suspension tuning is something that Toyota would have had a hand in, rather than leaving it to the Germans. Body roll is, well, there is some body roll. It's not completely flat, but for a sports car, this is surprisingly good. I'm feeling that the brakes are lacking a little bit of feel. There isn't the same sort of sharpness to it, but the cabin feels quite insulated. Now, this isn't the final version in terms of interior and exterior. It's very, very close, but the insulation is really good, and I think I need to actually be watching my speed rather than trying to judge things based on visuals, because I think it is quite an encapsulating experience. It's a sensory deprivation experience. There's a nice raughty exhaust note to it. How much of that is being plumbed into the cabin? Well, we're still going to have to find out. So I quite like the handling prowess as we pull off that little mountain pass. We've still got a couple of twisties here. And the car feels nicely balanced. It really does feel like a good 50-50 distribution here. There's good weight over the nose. You can feel the back end is planted, but there's just ever so slight hint of movement coming from either, depending on how aggressive you get with the steering inputs and your speed into the corner. The throttle response is also surprisingly good for a turbocharged engine, but a lot of that is going to be confused by the gearbox. The gearbox just being in the right gear is going to make you think that the engine is super responsive. The thing is, with these direct injection turbocharged engines, you're not really battling with low-end throttle response. There's enough torque delivery low down, so it makes the car quite capable, quite malleable in terms of driving it in traffic, coming out of a slow turn. So far, the interior is quite cosseting. There is a very strong BMW influence and design language that we're just getting from it. Just the feel, the ergonomics, they don't feel BMW, and that is pleasantly surprising. There are very few BMWs that I actually feel comfortable in, and from early onset, this feels Japanese, which is very, very surprising and very, very pleasant. I'm pleasantly surprised. I don't think that the exterior is going to be unattractive. I don't know if it's going to win any awards though. We can't tell you. We're going to have to wait for the official reveal without all the camouflage and nasty little hidey bits on it. What we can say though is they've kept the side vent. That's actually situated in the door. It is quite nice. It's really got nice aggressive hips to it as well. And that's something that is quite, well, 90s JDM. It was both the Supra and the RX-7 FD that had those beautiful haunches and hips that really gave it a stance and a presence and set that back end off. The nose, well, quite Formula 1 inspired and possibly, well, harking back to a little bit of SL treatment. Is it a bad thing? Maybe not. I don't think so. This new A90 Mark V certainly doesn't feel like a heavy, cumbersome vehicle. The A80 could most definitely feel a little cumbersome in traffic and on the open road as soon as you started hitting a little bit of undulations in the roadway. You could feel its size. This one, well, sort of belies its size. It's hearty, but the get up and go is proper. I suppose the burning question really is, have they managed to capture the essence of the Mark IV Toyota Supra? I'd like to think that they have. I really do. We've got the Spanish countryside, a glorious sounding six-cylinder, even if it is possibly, well, a little artificial. A very, very dynamic, enthusiastic and communicative chassis. And I think all the makings of, well, a future legend.